Welcome to the Wellness Help Desk with your host, Nike Lamodi, certified wellness coach and personal trainer. A wellness podcast focused on providing practical tips on how to curate a healthy lifestyle uniquely for you, where we discuss wellness hot topics with expert guests and have real candid conversations. It's the one-stop shop you need to get the help you've been looking for. Let's dive in. Hey, what's up, and welcome to the Wellness Help Desk. I'm your host, Nike Lamodi, and this is episode 43. So excited. Today we have a guest that will be talking to you all today. If you have felt so uncertain about a path that you feel called to walk down, or maybe there's something that you're really being called to, but you feel extremely scared, or your hesitation is just overcoming you, or your fears overcoming you, this is an episode for you. We'll be hearing from our guest, Claudia-Sam, who is a soul connection coach, and she helps you get back on track and in alignment with who you really are. So the times of people pleasing, not knowing what you want, getting sick over and over again, being stuck in overwhelm and overthinking, and just pushing down your emotions are over. Claudia helps you to recognize the difference between the voice of the ego self and the one of your soul self, so that as a passionate leader and trailblazer, you can finally make the impact in the world that you are here for with confidence. Using her tune-in method and the teachings of A Course in Miracles, she works with individuals one-on-one, in groups, and also through businesses to help them slow down while still being productive. This includes ditching the self-care guilt, creating a deeper connection with their higher self, and flexing their soul connection muscles so that they can be their own inner guides to fulfillment and happiness now. Claudia-Sam worked in media for over 10 years in Montreal, Canada, and after burning out, she dove into making her own life better so that others can also thrive without fear, self-doubt, worry, or stress. She taught yoga all over the world and has thousands of students on Insight Timer. I'm so excited for you to hear from her, and I will make sure to put in the show notes links to her podcast, The Be Happy Now Show, as well as free resources that are available to you from her that you can just click in the show notes. So let's go ahead and jump into this interview. I'm so excited to jump into this episode with you all to hear from our special guest. And thank you so much, Claudia, for being here. Honestly, you being a soul connection coach is going to extremely serve the listeners, especially my first gen eldest daughter. So thank you so much for providing your time and your value to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here, Nike. Thank you. Hanging out with you is actually really fun. So I'm really blessed.
It is. So fun fact, we actually recorded an interview earlier today. So this is like my second time seeing Claudia, and I love her energy. So I'm very, very grateful for that. I would not want to record twice in one day with anyone but you. So I'm grateful it's you. Um,
Woohoo!
so I am so excited to hear your perspective and just your value for my first gen eldest daughters. Typically, a lot of times, like I find with my clients or when I'm talking to people in DMs, that they feel like they're faced with the pressure to achieve success in their life, whether that's to become a certain career type, lawyer, doctor, engineer, or to make a certain amount of money, or to reach a certain amount of status in terms of they're married and have the kids. And at times they find themselves stuck at a crossroads because they don't know, okay, am I supposed to do what I'm expected to do? Or I want to go this other route, or this other path is calling my name, or this is something that actually really lights me up more, but they feel so conflicted in that. And so I just wanted to first ask you, like, what would you say is the importance for someone really following through on what they're being called to if they feel like they're up against the wall with what I'm supposed to do and what I want to do?
Oh, thanks so much for that question. It's really cool because just before this recording, I was having one of the envisioning sessions that I host monthly with my community where we set intentions and we kind of go about defining what goals we want to work on for the month. And it's always intuitive and different. And today it was about revisiting what is success to us. And
Mm,
the piece that came through was how it's different now when you get to tap into that bigger energy, the truth of who you are, the love essence that connects us all together. Success becomes a way of being and a feeling instead of like this tangible amount of money that you make or task that you X off of your to-do list. It becomes very different. So I guess we will explore that. I'm going to share 3 steps with your listeners, with you who's listening, about how to develop that path of your own, like that self-trust when things feel so uncertain. Because I know what it feels like to live with uncertainty and live differently. I would call it living differently. Maybe it answers your question in that for me, it's about honoring that I'm not doing it like everyone else. And it's scary. I know how it is I know how scary it is to go your own way. Like here are examples, whether it's starting your own business when you've been pushed to have a secure paying job, or going vegetarian when all your friends are carnivores, or choosing to live in a country where when you're a city girl, or moving to another city or to another country when some of your family members don't even have an up-to-date passport, or traveling with a backpack when all you've been taking to are all-inclusive resorts. So you're not, used to just finding your way around a new city, or deciding to work 4 days a week when some people in your family might think, but how will you pay your bills? Going to yoga when your colleagues go to CrossFit, like running because you think yoga is boring. All these things are different. They are you honoring what lights you up, honoring what uplifts you, even when it's scary. And I've heard this the other day, that having faith is trusting even when you don't know what's going to happen. And so to me, that's what it's like to take these leaps and go with what you want versus what you should do. It's trusting that you matter, trusting that you're worthy of it, really.
First of all, I love that you said success is a state of being and not actual, like tangible, what you're seeing around you or what's textbook. Because I think that a lot of people are buying into the success of what quote unquote is right, but the feeling that they're feeling in their body and their lived experience is dissatisfaction. And there's no joy, there's no feeling in alignment and on purpose. And I love that you said that, like that state of being. And I love how you were naming all those examples, like running instead of yoga, like being a vegetarian when everyone else is carnivore. It's like people have examples of the micro victories of being in their own uniqueness already. And I feel like that's so helpful to hear that you shared that, because now we already have evidence for why we can then apply this to make a bigger decision in another way or go another direction. You already have evidence of you being in your uniqueness. And so I love that you shared that. And lastly, the trusting that you are worthy of it, that like hit me deep, especially because I know that first gen eldest daughters can sometimes battle with scarcity or things not having enough, not being enough. And so the trusting that you're worthy of it, that is like a very, very powerful statement that you shared. And I'm curious, like, if someone says, okay, because you mentioned self-trust, if they're like, okay, why is it important for me to have this self-trust if I'm wanting to move forward? Like, why does that matter? Why can't I just rely on the logic side of my brain? Why does it have to be this whole like intuitive self-trust thing? What would like be your response to that person?
Thank you. It's funny, right? Why do I have to do anything? Can I stay here? You totally can, right? We all are at choice. And if it serves you to stay where you're at, great. If it feels me, then maybe you get to get curious and explore that. And what I would say is that I see this as choosing evolution over stagnation, because my soul would feel stuck if I didn't do things differently. My soul is here to bloom. My soul is on a mission. My soul came here to learn and shake things up and be a light so that Like once you turn your light on, then other people's lights can go, oh, I can turn mine on too.
Mm.
And so some people are called to do things differently and some people aren't. It doesn't mean that doing things differently is the only way to light up. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. There's no
Mm-hmm.
one better than the other.
Yeah.
If you're being called to do what you want to do, you're being called to it. There's an intuitive nudge. There's like an inclination. There's like a, oh, but I'm here for a bigger reason.
Mm.
Then we get to step into what your soul purpose is, to look for that bigger meaning of why you're here. Because when you get to dive into your soul self, you recognize the edges of comfort that your human ego self resides in.
Mm-hmm.
And the line between that comfort zone of the human, I call it the small self, the small s self, the line between that human side of who we are, who feels things and has a body and has thoughts and inner critic and pressure to do things right and be the example as first gen eldest daughters, for example. And then
Mm-hmm.
the line between that and the big S self, the soul self, the one who is vibrating with something that is inexplicable, something that is bigger than us, that actually is that fuel to light or the electricity to light us up so that
Mm-hmm.
then we can kind of be a magnet for exactly what it is that we want. Because once we recognize that we have that light and we decide to move and dance, I like to say dance between ego and soul. When I dance with ego and soul, with my head and my heart, that's when I start to, well, step into my soul purpose, listen to my intuition a bit more, and then I get to attract exactly what I want and more. So why
Mm.
wouldn't I want to attract and live at a higher vibration with more peace and ease? To me, it's a no-brainer.
Mm.
Even though it's scary, there are people like you and I who help you move through these transitions, right?
Yeah.
To trust yourself more so that you can have faith in
Mm.
you're here for a reason.
That evolution over stagnation, because what I'm hearing you say to this person is, hey, we're not saying disregard the logic if that's what helps you to feel safe. What we're saying is, how can you strike a balance between both your logic and your intuition and leaning in to both and not minimizing the other? And by doing that, you're actually going to be living in a more aligned, vibrant, joyful, rewarding life that inspires others and lights you up. So I love that because I feel like people tend to only think it has to be option one and option two, that fixed mindset. And I love that you're offering like, no, it could be a blend of both. You just got to
Mm-hmm.
listen. What do you need? Do you need more of the logic? Do you need more of that intuition self? Like, which one do you need right now? Which also challenges first and eldest daughters to like be still enough to like tune in. So I love that you shared that. And I'm going to probably be re-saying that evolution over stagnation all the time now because that's just so powerful to me. And I feel like we both are really similar in I don't want to be stagnant in any area of my life. I want to continue evolving and seeing what comes from that evolution. So I love, love, love that phrase so much. And so, I mean, I'm really curious to hear like, what are the steps that someone would need to take if they say, okay, you've convinced me. Like, I believe that I can lean into this self-trust. What steps do I need to take in order to start walking towards making shifts in my life and like really trusting myself?
Hmm. Thank you. I'd love to acknowledge that maybe the step zero is already done if you're here listening to this. If you're
Mm.
on this episode, you landed here, you don't know how, but you did, and you're feeling called to hearing about the steps. Are you willing to see that this is part of it? This is part of lighting yourself up and choosing you without guilt and choosing evolution over stagnation because you're here. So there is something that led you here. Therefore, it is inside of you. You have it in you and you can trust that. So the step number one is that it's here. You get to trust in this higher power that lines up with you. You can, call it what you want. I like to call it sometimes positive energy source. You can call it capital L love. You can call it the universe. God, you call it what resonates with you, an energy that lights all of us up, something that is in you, that is in me, that is in the plant, that is in the sea, something that has the flowers bloom and the trees lose their leaves and then the bears go hibernate. Like there's something that occurs that it's higher than we can't understand. We can't really explain it. So in order to trust yourself, we get to trust in a higher power. That's pretty much where I want to get to. And that it goes to the level of the tides. There's that energy of that magnetic pull of the moon with the earth, for example, that has the tides move. Nobody's pressing a button to say to the moon, this is what you got to do. It just happens. So there's a higher power there. You are more than just human. So this trusting in a higher power can help you to remember that you're not alone, that you are worthy, and that it's not just your competitive, performant, convincing type A ego who gets to trust. That logic mind gets to trust, and that would be you having control. When you trust, you let go of control and you remember that you're not alone with this higher power. So to trust yourself, you get to trust in your higher power, in a higher power. Then step 2, the control piece. Okay. Because what do you mean letting go of control?
Yeah. I feel like a few of them probably are like, wait, what did she just say?
What do you mean? Oh my gosh. So having control over your way of being. Remember at the beginning, we spoke about how success gets to be defined differently now. Instead of these tangible things we tick off of our list, or these identities or roles we end up having, or these titles at work that we have or aim for. Well, success gets to be a way of being. So you get to have control over your way of being. This means how you show up in your relationship to your body, what it tells you, and in relationship with your mind, and how kind you get to be with yourself and with others, and in relationship with your emotions, so that you let things flow instead of let them really block you, right? Because right? Emotions, it's an energy that flows. And so you might not have control over the exact emotion that comes in or when it comes in. You get to have control over how you receive it, what you do with it, how you choose to move forward with it. And it's the same with the thoughts in the mind. And it's the same with the messages that we receive with our body.
And it's so good that you mentioned that, because they're all working with each other in synergy. Like your emotions and that energy, your body is holding on to that, or it's not. The thoughts you're thinking, your brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what you're just thinking, creating in your head. So all of it is working in synergy. So yeah, you do need to be alert and aware of the control of the interaction of these things. So I love that you mentioned that so much.
Thank you. Yeah, the awareness of and creating balance with the body, the mind, and the emotions are part of the foundational steps of my tune-in method, because I find that's how we get to really create that balance within the human self before we can even think of accessing our soul self and diving into more of a spiritual discussion or conversation about who we really are. We get to really honor the human. And so that brings us to step number 3. Remembering your worthiness and how that positive energy source, the divine, speaks to you through your human self. You get to practice ways to be a vessel, a receptor to your intuition. So a vessel for communicating with that source, that positive energy source, with love, with God, with your intuition, with trust, and that energy that we can't really explain. Well, we get to develop a vessel for communicating with that, because one of the tools that I use is I am a student and a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles says that there is a part of the mind that holds only thoughts that we share with love, with that higher power, with God, with the universe. And that part of the mind, when it's closed, because we're only stuck in that type A performance, over giving, do, go, identifying yourselves with yourself with roles and titles and performance and success as a tangible thing, that part of the mind that holds the thoughts of the intuition it's blocked, it's closed, so we can't hear it. So we get to practice ways to open that part of the mind to be a vessel for communicating with your intuition. So this means like, yeah, it can be sitting with your eyes closed in meditation. It can also look like being in nature with your eyes open in silence, not with your phone, in silence.
Mm-hmm.
It can look like consciously breathing, feeling the breath in through the nose and out through the nose. It can be like walking or running without any goal, like without, I got to do this time, just being. It could be even journaling, right? Without any goal. And so remembering your worthiness by practicing a way to be a vessel to receive your intuitive nudges.
It's so interesting that you even said that, because when you were describing that, the image that came into my mind was life is like this loud radio that's on, and going to the dial and just turning it all the way down and just sitting in that silence to see like what is happening. How do I feel? What's coming up for me? And I noticed that when I go on walks with no headphones, no podcast playing, there's so much that just starts coming up for me that I verbally start to process. And I just am like, silence is so powerful. And I love that you described that so well, and allowing people to silence the noise. Half the time, that's the part of the problem. They haven't silenced the noise. So I love that you shared that. And these 3 steps, I feel like, are super simple but profound. And someone can start doing these like today. But I'm curious, like, there's still going to be a little tinge of like, but what ifs for someone who may be thinking, but what are other people going to think? But what if I'm afraid to like take that next step? Or what if I'm not even really making the right decision? Like, what would you encourage them if they're like, okay, I want to try implementing these steps, but here are like some of the concerns or thoughts that I'm having, or the fears that are like coming up for me?
The soul has no fear. The part of you that holds thoughts that you share with that source, that receives your intuition, that tells you that you get to do this, that that's what you want. If I ask you, would you go paragliding, jumping off a mountain and be with someone you don't know and paraglide? There is something in you that has you say yes. And there's something that has you say no. That thing is the intuition. It can be fear as well, and it can be intuition. It can be like a deep knowing that that's for you or that's not for you. And sometimes we can work towards it being for you or it not being for you. Like I myself paraglided, but I was before, and then I meditated on the top of the mountain and visualized and affirmed and calmed myself so that it was a yes, because there was a part of it that I wanted. I wanted the view. I wanted the experience. I wanted to jump outside my comfort zone, hence how I do things differently often. I took myself from that place of like discomfort to comfort-ish in it. So if there's these thoughts of like, what are other people going to think? And what if I fail? Well, A Course in Miracles says that you cannot fail because you're already a success. A success is who you are. The worthiness that you are is a success. You cannot fail. And so you get to remember that fear is the human ego thing that we believe in. Not saying it's not there. I'm saying we get to dance with it and be like, oh, there you are, fear. And we get to kind of have a mini party with fear and have a conversation with fear and decide if we want to let fear run the show or if we want trust and ease and simplicity and worthiness and abundance and joy run the show. So it's not about discounting it. It's like when someone says, oh, I don't know how to meditate. I can't stop my thoughts. The goal of meditation is not to stop the thoughts. The goal of meditation is to be present with what is and to choose what you do with what comes in your mind. And so it's the same thing here. Are you going to choose to let these fears stop you from stepping into your soul purpose? Or are you willing maybe to have some support and to be stretched and coached into exploring and getting curious with, okay, how can this work for me? What's a way that I can be with a fear without it feeling like it's a like I have to move countries. I moved from Canada to New Zealand. Okay, I forgot to say. Um, I, I do jump in these big leaps,
Yes.
and I know that not a lot of people do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to take it step by step. It's okay to not want to go for the divorce or the changing jobs or the cutting people out of your lives. That's not what we're playing for. We're playing for you to access your heart more and remember that fear doesn't control you.
First of all, when you said like you met yourself where you were with the paragliding and then you got yourself comfortable-ish to just go take a step, I love that because it's like, hey, there's a spectrum. Like, where can you meet yourself where you're at and bump yourself up to a place where you feel comfortable? Or if not comfortable, at least, okay, I feel a little confidence or a twinge of like stepping my toe in the water so that then you can see what else happens after you just stick your big toe in the water. So I love that you explained it in that way because then it doesn't feel like this whole big project task overhaul. It feels very one thing at a time. What do I need? Where am I at? How can I meet myself where I'm at? And then just go from there. Like it really can be just that light, that simple. And I love that. That was literally such a like visual thing that I could see that made that feel easy. So I think self trust is one of my favorite things to talk about just because of how powerful it is. So you've shared so much, Claudia, and I'm sure that people want to be able to hear more about what you do. And do you have like any events coming up or where can people find you? Like, can you just provide people where you are at?
Thank you. Yes, well, you can for sure hear our conversation between Nikkei and I on self-trust as we kind of continue this conversation in a way of like loving yourself as much as you love others on the Be Happy Now show. So of course, anywhere you listen to your podcast, you're welcome to find the Be Happy Now show. And regularly on the show, I'm hosting live free trainings where you can be there when I record the show live for a portion, and then you get to be coached on the topic. So you get to be invited in
Mm.
this cozy Zoom room. And the next one is at the end of the month, and it's on how to believe in your goals so that, well, you can actually, they can come true. Okay. And
Mm.
so we're going to work on like the opposite of belief that is skepticism, because often it's like I don't believe in that my goals can come true, but I have all these goals. And so we're going to explore that together on that free training. And I want you
Mm.
to come.
Yes. And I will make sure that all the links to the training and her Instagram and all of that is in the show notes so that you all will be able to access that. But thank you so very much for being here and offering very simple but practical and powerful steps for people to start seeing the power in self-trust and that they really can lean into that, get out of the logic and I appreciate you sharing what you shared. I know that I found it really helpful for my own personal self for sure. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nikkei. This has been so fun. I also could talk about this all day and leaning into trust. Like I know as coaches, we love to evolve and transform even in our own lives and
Hmm.
feel like that's what we get to do consistently. We flex that muscle of self-trust. And so I love how we're in it too. So, you
Yeah.
know, it gets to be messy and wonky, and we don't have like the perfect one answer because we are all these unique beings as well. And yet we hope, I'm going to speak for myself, I hope that, you know, the conversation that you're hearing today is supportive to know that you're not alone and that if you want to jump into this self-trust exploration, as messy as it can be, then we're here alongside you.
Yes, of course, 100%. And it's like to what if everything goes right? You know, quit thinking what if it goes wrong? What if everything goes right? What if it goes better than you could ever have imagined. Lean on that, chew on that. And, with that, thank you all for listening in, and I will catch you all in the next episode. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening in. If you enjoyed the episode today, head over and leave me a review. This helps others find the podcast and be one step closer to curating their healthy lifestyle. Come connect with me over on Instagram at Nike_Lamodi. And if social isn't your thing, join my beautiful newsletter community via the link in the show notes. To learn more about exclusive one-on-one wellness coaching, head over to rndaywellness.com. As always, remember to give yourself grace.